What would happen to your business if MFT is down, or if MFT is not working?
It is a good question. So for us, MFT is one of our top critical services. So being in financial services, we're heavily reliant on data and file transfer between various financial institutions and providers. And so we really rely on MFT on a daily basis to ensure that we're getting the right data both in and out of our organisation to deliver the outcomes that our clients are looking for. Morgans Financial is Australia's largest full-service wealth management stockbroking firm. So we have 58 offices around Australia, and we first and foremost one of the most reputable financial institutions out there in terms of delivering outcomes for our clients. And so who are our clients? It's everyone from individual investors, mum and dad investors, all the way up to institutions, to corporates that are looking at listing on the Australian Stock Exchange, looking for advice, looking for capital raising.
What we have tried to do is made it as seamless as possible. So from an user UI accessibility, it is very seamless. They don't realize what's happening in the back end, I guess. So when we are shipping files out or getting in files, transferring to our data warehouse and massaging the data, it's all happening behind the scenes. And the flexibility we get with MFT Cloud at the moment is their API integrations and all cloud native S3 bucket integration. So it has made our lives much easier there. So it's that's how we do interact with all the institutions, banks. We get the clearing balance files. We send files that updates portfolios, trading data. So in and out, we do almost from every 10 minutes to throughout the day. So we have a very high, around over 3,500 inbound and outbound integrations with MFT every day. So we probably not the largest, but we have a very heavy use as well.
Certainly from my perspective, that early on we made a strategic decision that we're a wealth management firm, focus on the capabilities that add value to our advisors and our clients. And so when looking at file transfer, which is certainly one of the key capabilities for us, look at partnering with the best in the industry around that. And certainly when we went out to market and looked for the best, Axway was the name that came up. And that's the reason why we have chosen Axway and why we've had such a long and successful relationship using MFT. Around the reasoning, early on, we made a strategic decision as an IT capability to focus on the value add for our business. And certainly, like managed file transfer was not an area that we were an expert in. So it made sense for us to look at partnering with best of breed to deliver that capability. So the reason that we looked at managed file transfer was, why not give it to Axway, someone who's an expert in that space? They can manage the patching, the operation, the delivery of that. And we then are focused on the outcome that we're looking for of how do we get the data in a reliable, secure fashion from the financial institutions that we need it to us and vice versa. And so for us, it was a logical fit. It then freed up our team to focus on the value add capability that made sense for our business, knowing that we had a reliable partner delivering that capability in Axway. So it's been a great move for us. It's been all positive since we've moved from on-prem into cloud hosted. And we're looking forward to what we can deliver together moving forward. Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that we think about certainly on a daily basis. You touched on the nature of the regulation, financial institutions. Certainly for us and the outlook that we have is that our clients are trusting us to invest their money and their funds. And so we need to be able to, at a very basic level, convey confidence that they can trust us to protect their data and the things that matter from a security and a compliance standpoint. And so that really is front of mind for us when we're looking at who do we partner with from a provider standpoint? What technology do we choose to use? And so we've been very deliberate on ensuring that the partners and the technology platforms that we leverage have security and compliance first and foremost. And that's certainly why we looked at Axway MFT and why we continue to leverage the solution.
We did have a scenario with several clients who wanted to use an insecure protocol and continue to do so. So once we moved to the cloud, we saw that opportunity for us to be more, resilient. And so we we did actually say we will no longer support that protocol. In the past, we've been quite accommodating, but I think here and Matt, etc., they made the call and we were quite stringent and said, no, we're not going to go down that road. We had quite a bit of resilience from some customers, but we stood by our guns, and thankfully they continued the journey with us, because we pretty much said we can't continue with that protocol. And it was, thankfully we no longer use it. So it is, from a security standpoint, we're certainly a lot more resilient than we were.
Essentially, like if we look at a few years back when we were very on-prem and we didn't have Salesforce, MFT Cloud, we were doing a lot of these very hand-holding. So spreadsheets, people are sending through emails, and there was a lot of risk around security and every aspect of it, people, human error. But with the cloud SaaS-based offering, it's as a user, whether it's a client accessing our portal or an advisor accessing our CRM, they're just accessing the UI and they're navigating as a wizard. They're not really seeing how the file is going to let's say NAB or Suncorp, anyone, and the process ingest, and they can see their portfolio updating in near to real time. So from a simplicity, they're just interacting any web UI. They're not have to be too technical because we have a wide demographics of people. And the other aspect to that is not all organization, because we have individuals, mom and dad, and not everyone has a SFTP set up. So I think the biggest one plus we got from Axway Cloud is their API, where we can leverage our files and send individually via API. So they can, if they are a small business, they don't need to invest a lot of money getting a SFTP set up. They can still use and get the files and documents in a very secured manner.
I would say the biggest challenge that we're seeing, but also conversely, probably the biggest opportunity, is that there is now a significant focus on the availability of data. We've spent the last couple of years as an organisation building an integrated platform and a single pane of glass that can really surface the information up to our advisors and clients. And now the challenge that we're seeing is how do we gain access to more and more data, and how do we connect some of these disparate systems, third-party services, into our ecosystem so that we can better leverage that data, better interrogate it, better surface it through to our advisors and clients. And so that's where we're seeing really a massive focus within this integration and data movement space, because it really is now focused on how do we plug all these different systems together? How do we connect different providers into our network so that we can more easily transfer information, more regularly transfer information to provide those insights through to our advisors and clients? And that's where we're seeing things like MFT and some of the other products that we're using becoming more and more critical to how we do business.
When we used to use the on-prem versus the cloud, I think the biggest challenge or the advantage, what we have noticed, is the managing part of it. So the upgrades, patching, that sort of things, that has helped us massively, where we don't have to worry about any patching, scheduled upgrades. It just happens in the background and there's near to zero downtime. And that gives us way more confidence on weekends and after hours, I guess. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is there are certain features that are cloud native that you can use as an example. You can share files via API, or you can do like S3 buckets and Azure blobs. Those things helps us part of our overall strategy to move things in cloud and SaaS-based offering. So that definitely helps us in the right roadmap where we are seeing as an organization, technology-wise, where we want to be.
So it was a really nice transition for us, not to worry about the setup, etc. Because even when it's up and running, as I said, you've got that tuning, etc. So we didn't have to worry about it. As has been said, it's run really well. So it was a nice. I won't call it a holiday, but it was quite nice for us to an easier way to manage things. So it was good.
Certainly for us, we were looking for the outcome that MFT provides us, the ability to ensure that files are moving seamlessly between our organisation and third-party organisations, but we didn't want to have to manage all of the other components that came with it. So, moving to the cloud meant that we were able to shift all of that capability into Axway's hands and still get the outcome that we're looking for that MFT provides. So it was a logical decision for us. It's been a great move. And we've really seen the benefits since we've moved into the cloud environment. So it just makes sense.
There's a say in Morgan's, if you don't hear about a product, that means it's working really well.
Yeah.
So no one's complaining is a good thing. And MFT is one of those. If we not since, and touch wood, we haven't had any outage since we moved to cloud. And even in on-prem, I think when we did the upgrades and the patching, and not necessarily MFT related, it could be a SQL or something, it did have a knock-on effect. And then the whole half a day, whether it's Stuart or anyone, spends time on remediating tasks. Yeah. And I think as an organization, we made a conscious decision a few years where when we started the digital transformation, that the people would focus on the actual outcome, as Matt mentioned, not actually managing the mundane day-to-day tasks. And people enjoy doing that. No one wants to come and fix the same system every day. So that is a big shift and what we have seen part of the journey.
From an engineering point of view, it's been reliability, really. It's just been really solid. We've been on, again, so many different environments. We even started on Windows, which I guess was a dirty word in the transport world. And then we moved to Linux, and then VMs, etc. So we kind of been over the years through every journey, every kind of hurdle, etc. And yeah, I guess reliability, the stability of the product. We've, as Shui, etc. has said, it is 24/7. It's running. There's a lot of demand. Shui said the number's 3,500 files, but some of those files can be large. Many gigs, etc. And it's just that we need that stability. Without it, the business really does suffer. If there's an issue with file transfers, etc., it's a very big knock-on effect. And of course, in our business, it's not something we can afford. So that's for me, it's definitely the stability point.
I think the one big key call out, I would say, is the support. I think especially the Axway P1, P2 support and their professional services, they're really technically good and really helpful. And that really gives a good traction for anyone who's moving from on-prem to a cloud, just from their knowledge and the hand-holding there. So we had a lot of benefits using that.
Yeah, it was a big help.
It's been a great transition moving from on-prem into the cloud offering, and it would certainly be something that we would recommend to others that are considering that journey and that migration. So it's been all positive.